is recognizing newly commissioned and ascensioned officers of the Massachusetts National Guard, the Governor's 20, and other award recipients. We will also recognize and celebrate the birth of the National Guard with a ceremonial cake cutting commemorating the National Guard's 388th birthday. Before we begin, please join us in offering a special welcome to our distinguished visitors. Please hold your applause until all are introduced. Governor Maura Healey, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, State Treasurer Deborah Goldberg, Senator Walter Timilty, Senator Nick Collins, Representative David Vieira, Representative Michael Soter, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army, John Driscoll, Public Safety Secretary Terrence Reidy, Secretary of the Executive Office of Veteran Services, John Santiago, Office of Veteran Advocate, Bob Notch, State Command Sergeant Major James Campbell, State Command Chief, Chief Master Sergeant Michelle O'Keefe, State Chief Warrant Officer 5, Jay Vincent, Air National Guard Assistant to the Commander, Air Force Materiel Command, Major General Virginia Gaglio, Land Component Commander Brigadier General Mark Kalin, Air Component Commander Brigadier General Joseph Morrissey, Assistant Adjutant General Air Brigadier General Lisa Lagisi, Assistant Adjutant General Army Brigadier General Rick Cipro, Deputy Commanding General Sustainment 42nd Infantry Division Brigadier General Peter Fiorentino, Brigadier General Retired Paul Miner, Brigadier General Massachusetts Matt Kennedy, Brigadier General Massachusetts Emery Maddox, Assistant Adjutant General Colonel Jason Overton, Chief of Staff Lieutenant Colonel Tim Murphy. The Massachusetts National Guard would like to extend its sincere appreciation to the Military Friends Foundation for their partnership over the past 20 years in support of our Guard members and Gold Star families. We would like to especially thank the Military Friends Foundation for supporting today's ceremony. The official party for today's ceremony are Governor Maura Healey, Commander-in-Chief Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, and Major General Gary Keefe, the Adjutant General, Massachusetts National Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the official party and remain standing for the playing of ruffles and flourishes, followed by the national anthem and the invocation by Chaplain Ziegler. The colors are presented today by the Massachusetts National Guard Joint Honor Guard. Honor Guard, post.
Take. Present. Oh.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order home. Rise. Take. 4 more.
You're welcome to pray with me at this time. Gracious Heavenly Father, today we welcome your presence here as we celebrate the National Guard's birthday. For 388 years, the National Guard has served in every major U.S. conflict and supported American communities in crisis. And it all started here in 1636, when the legislature ordered the forming of 3 militia regiments in the Boston area. We are proud to be the nation's first, and we are grateful to be a part of the oldest military force in the Western Hemisphere. We thank you for this privilege that it is to be a part of the proud legacy of these units, stretching back centuries in the strong defense of our Commonwealth and our nation. We also thank you for those who will be commissioned today, for those willing to set aside their personal freedoms for the sake of preserving the freedom of others. We are particularly grateful for our elected leaders and for their unwavering support of the National Guard throughout their tenure. Please continue to grant wisdom to those who are elected to lead us and enable the National Guard to continue building trust with our society through defense support of civil authorities. We ask for your blessings upon everyone gathered here today and upon this celebration in your holy name. Amen. Thank you, Chaplain Ziegler. Please be seated. Welcome to the Massachusetts State House. The room we are having our ceremony in today is the Memorial Hall, a room steeped in the military traditions and history of the Commonwealth. Today we have the distinct pleasure of celebrating an important moment in the careers of these officers, and we recognize the finest marksmen in the Massachusetts National Guard, as well as other award recipients. We would now like to introduce the Massachusetts Army National Guard's historian, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Love, to say a few words.
December 13th, more than a birthday. We recognize December 13th as the birthday of the National Guard because on this date in 1636, the formerly independent town militias of the Massachusetts Bay Colony were ordered by the General Court to organize into 3 regiments, North, East, and South. This structure provided better command and control, and it strengthened the colony's defenses. Today, the descendants of these first regiments, the 181st and the 182nd Infantry, the 101st Field Artillery, and the 101st Engineer Battalion, share the distinction of being the oldest units in the U.S. military and among the oldest continually serving units in the world. Thus, December 13th, 1636 marks the beginning of the organized militia and the symbolic founding of all the state, territory, and District of Columbia militias that make up the National Guard today. December 13th was a date with consequences. With the approaching 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolution, I ask you to consider the contributions of our organized militia to the events of April 19th, 1775. By that time, the militia in Massachusetts was already 139 years old and had fought in 6 wars, primarily against the French and their Native American allies. The strength, experience, and self-assurance of the Massachusetts militia were on display on April 19th, and their ranks would go on to provide over 40% of the Continental Army's strength. Today, the Massachusetts National Guard is 388 years old, and its strength, experience, and self-assurance remain seasoned and vibrant. December 13th is more than a birthday because the storied beginnings and subsequent history of the Massachusetts National Guard continues to inspire not only our soldiers and airmen and our communities, but the nation as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Love. We now welcome Governor Maura Healey to say a few words.
Good morning, and happy birthday. It's an honor to be here once again this year with Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll and General Keefe and all of you to celebrate your birthday, and a happy 388th to all. I appreciated the comments of the historian because that kind of puts it in perspective. You guys have been doing this for a long time, close to 400 years. It's pretty amazing. I know that across this great country today, there are going to be many states marking this important anniversary, but we know that here in Massachusetts, we own the true birthday. We own this because this is where, as we just heard, the Guard was born. And that is really something to think about, the fact that the first militias in Massachusetts, in North America, we didn't even have a state then, were organized right here in what is our state today, where ordinary people came together to provide protection and safety. They were, of course, recognized then formally by the General Court on this day in 1636, and it is the reason why today is, in fact, the birthday of not just the Massachusetts National Guard, but the United States National Guard. I'll challenge all of my colleagues across great other states who want to wrestle for that recognition. Not only are we the oldest, we're the most accomplished, appearing time and time again in various wars and operations through not just decades, centuries. And I am so proud of that. The Massachusetts National Guard, first in the nation and always indispensable, and always will be indispensable to the work of our great country and to our safety and our freedom. I want to start by recognizing the leadership of the Massachusetts National Guard, Major General Keefe, the Adjutant General, Major General Gaglio, Assistant Adjutant General and Executive Officer, Military Division, Brigadier General Kalin, Land Component Commander, Brigadier General Morrissey, Air Component Commander, and all the officers, soldiers, and airmen who are joining us today. I want to give special congratulations to those new and ascending officers who are being commissioned today, and Guard members who are winning well-deserved awards. I also want to recognize every service member, veteran, and military family member joining us today. Today and every day, we thank you for your service. I'm also grateful to be joined today by leaders who honor and support our National Guard. Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, our Treasurer Deb Goldberg, our Secretary of Public Safety and Security Terrence Reidy, Deputy Secretary Sue Terry, and Undersecretary Gina Kwan, who work closely with the Guard. Our Secretary of Veterans Services, John Santiago, a major in the Army Reserves. In fact, when I called him to bring him on board in our new administration, he was stationed in Syria. Our Deputy Secretary Andrea Gale Bennett, a retired Brigadier General in the Massachusetts National Guard herself, retired U.S. Army Colonel Bob Notch, who leads our Office of the Veteran Advocate. The Veterans Services team, so proud of the incredible work that they have done over the last couple of years, along with our legislature, on the veterans' homes in Holyoke and Chelsea, on the HERO Act, and everything we do to support our military families both during and after service. This fall, we also launched a new tax credit passed by the legislature of $2,000 for every Massachusetts business that hires active members of the National Guard. We want every employer to understand that having a member of the Guard on your team is a major asset, and we as a state want to reward them for that. So for that and so much more, I want to thank the members of the legislature's National Guard Caucus, Senator Walter Timilty, Senator Nick Collins, Rep. David Vieira, Rep. Michael Soter. Appreciate all your partnership and support. The truth is, our pride in the Massachusetts National Guard is not only about being first and making history, it's also because the men and women of the Guard represent the very best of Massachusetts. More than 8,000 soldiers, airmen, and civilians at 37 armories and 4 installations, serving our state, serving our country. As governor, there's no greater honor nor deeper responsibility than serving as a state commander-in-chief. We activate Guard units in their mission at times of great crisis. These are moments when citizens and communities are in profound need of help and support, often with their lives and homes at risk. These are moments when our civilian emergency services have reached their limits. So in the time of our greatest need, we turn to you, the Guard. And I've seen that up close and personal, and I am grateful to you for your service and for what you deliver. In a global pandemic, Guard members supported a statewide emergency public health response. They protected all of us. Last year, during dangerous storms and floods, we depended on skilled Guard members operating high water vehicles to go out where no one else could go, and they were there for us. We depended on the Guard to provide humanitarian support to vulnerable families in emergency shelter, and they were there with compassion. More recently, the wildfires this summer, this fall, happening across the state, threatening communities. The Guard Aviation Unit provided critical support to help our local firefighters. So I just want to say, in my short couple years as your governor, I've seen the Guard in action, kicking ass, doing incredible things, always answering the call. And the LG and I are profoundly grateful. The men and women of the National Guard are always there for us, and that's because they're not only service members, but you are all our neighbors, family members, and friends. Moms and dads, sons and daughters, coaches, teachers, first responders. You support our communities in many ways every day. But when the call goes out and you put on that uniform, you are our protectors. Kind of like superheroes, except you all are real, and you represent the very best of us. Then there's the federal mission. You know, we're in a world of great challenge and turmoil. There's a lot going on. And Guard members, I know, meet critical national security needs every day in the tradition of the citizen soldier. Just this year, Massachusetts Guard members recently returned from providing security at the southwest border after 13 months. We have 300 soldiers who are preparing to support the presidential inauguration in Washington, D.C., ensuring the peaceful transfer of power that is the hallmark of a democracy. And I want to recognize especially the 181st Infantry Regiment, who right now are returning from a nearly year-long deployment in Iraq as part of Operation Inherent Resolve. As part of that mission, 9 Massachusetts soldiers received the Combat Action Badge for engaging directly with the enemy. They and their fellow Guard members defended our security in a world full of uncertainty and danger. General Keefe, I know that you visited those troops in Iraq, and we are grateful for your care and for your leadership. The 181st Infantry is, in fact, one of the units formed up in 1636, if you can believe. They defended democracy in World War II. They helped end the stain of slavery in the Civil War. In 1775, they stood together on the Green at Lexington and at the bridge at Concord, facing down the army of a then global empire. We'll be celebrating the 250th anniversary of that battle and many others in the coming year. And as we do, we will remember with awe and gratitude that we owe everything to the men and women who serve, the men and women of the Massachusetts National Guard. Our past, our present, our future, our freedom, our security, our nation. That is something in Massachusetts that we will never stop being proud of. So thank you once again to our Guard. Congratulations to the officers being commissioned and the award winners. And again, happy birthday. We can't wait to cut the cake.
Thank you, Governor Healey. We now welcome Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Governor Healey, Secretary Reidy, Secretary Santiago, members of our legislature, and General Keefe for being here. Happy Friday. Happy birthday. Happy holidays. The Guard, as the governor said, truly does represent both the pride we take in our history and the strength of our communities today. You know, in Massachusetts, history is not just some distant memory or part of a musty old school textbook. It's our living reality, all around us in our cities, in towns, in rural places. In fact, all around us today in this amazing building. As many of you know, I was the mayor of the city of Salem for 17 years. We have a little history in Salem, and it's not all about the witch trials. We are so proud to be able to call our city the birthplace of the National Guard. At some point in the early spring following December 13th, 1636, the East Regiment officially mustered for the first time on Salem Common to mobilize in its defense. And every year in April, to kick off our Patriots' Day weekend, we gather with the Massachusetts National Guard on Salem Common to commemorate the first muster. It is such a source of pride for our community. Large contingencies of residents, not just in Salem, but frankly, in the entire North Shore, come together, participate in the inspection of the troops, hear from leaders, and really come with gratitude to thank members of the Guard. This year was the first time in nearly 2 decades I was not able to attend, but not to worry. Somebody pretty cool took my place. It was Governor Healey's the first muster of the first muster for Governor Healey. That impact of the annual Salem muster is not only something that we do to help us remember our history, it also, to us, is the strengthening of the bonds of community. And frankly, that's what military service does, and especially through the Guard, where neighbors stand with neighbors and step forward to protect us. I think also at these times about the families of service members and their strength. I grew up in a military family. My father served in the Navy for 22 years. And while he passed away earlier this year at the wonderful age of 90, his was a life of service to country and community. And through his service, we were connected to military families in communities all across this nation, including right here in Massachusetts. The governor spoke about the 181st returning from Iraq this month. Nearly a year ago, back in January, I had the honor of joining General Keefe at the send-off ceremony for that unit as they headed out. It was a special day, because at that ceremony, I saw once again the way families serve alongside their military members and families sacrificing alongside them too. That is what represents the true full strength and history of the Massachusetts National Guard. It is men and women who devote their lives to protecting us and our freedoms. And it is a community stretching across our state of families who are devoted to service as well. I want to thank every member of the Guard with us today and your families for your service. I want to wish the National Guard a very happy 388th birthday. You make us proud. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our Adjutant General, Major General Gary Keefe.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today, and thank you. First of all, happy birthday to the soldiers and airmen of the Massachusetts National Guard, and I'll talk a little bit about you in a second. But I really want to thank the governor, Lieutenant Governor, for not just being here today, but for the continuous support. Same with Sue. I'm sorry, Sue. You have actually always been. Oh, Deb Goldberg. I'm sorry. I was up late last night, so. But I want Deb is always in our corner, and of course our Secretary Terry Reidy, Undersecretary Sue Terry, Jean, thanks for being here, Gina Kwan for being here, and our other great partner John Santiago and Andrea. Thank you for everything. You're our closest partner, and I'll talk a little bit about the officers that are actually new lieutenants, those that actually have transferred in from the Army, active duty Army, active duty Air Force Reserve, and those that transferred in from the Army Reserve. John Santiago, keep that in mind. It's a great day. You've heard a little bit of the history, and when you think about the history of the National Guard, you really need to think about the history of the entire military services that defend our great nation. It all did start with the National Guard. And you look at it, and if you look at the data today, and you look at the services and the components, the largest component is the active duty Army. The second largest is the United States Navy. The third largest component is the Army National Guard, and it's followed by the Air Force. Right now, between the Army National Guard and the Army Reserve, they make up 55% of the U.S. Army. So really, the active duty is a minority in that partnership. And the Air Force, the Air National Guard makes up 30% and takes care of 100% of the protection over the continental United States and the homeland. So the role that we play here in the homeland and internationally is huge. Our number one mission is warfighting. We're the combat arms of the Army and the Air Force. The nice thing that happens with that relationship in the Guard and for the 54 states, territories, and districts that are sovereign states that get to belong to this great republic that is the United States is by having the National Guard here, we can then respond and use our personnel, our equipment, and our resources to make sure that we protect not only the citizens of the Commonwealth, but work with our partners who every day are out there making sure that the Commonwealth is a safe place and continues to be the number one state that everyone wants to come to make home. So I want to thank you all, you young lieutenants, and some of you older officers that transferred in. Because quite honestly, when the framers of the Constitution and the founders of this nation created this ideal, if you will, and they started to draft the Constitution, a lot of what they took of that Constitution came from the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. On top of that, they had a military, as Colonel Love has already said, had already fought 6 wars. So as you think about the history and as you get ready for the 250th, keep in mind that you are part of an organization that, quite honestly, should be the only organization, and I'm talking about the Army Guard here right now, that has a Lexington and Concord battle streamer on their flag. The United States Army did not exist when Lexington and Concord happened 250 years ago. The Massachusetts National Guard did. So please keep that history in mind. I will tell you now, as the governor and lieutenant governor mentioned, we just brought the 181 back from a year in Iraq. Prior to that, we had the 126 Aviation that was in Syria up at Tower 22. Our cyber folks are doing the national mission down at Fort Myer for the entire country, defending the Department of Defense cyber infrastructure. Right now, we have airmen that are in Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. We've got airmen that are in Ukraine helping that. The 1060th Transportation Company right now is in Poland, helping the Poles with Russian aggression. Our 182nd Medical Company is heading over to Poland as well. And then also next year, we're going to say goodbye to the 26th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade as they move out and will be spread not only throughout Africa, but throughout parts of Southern Europe on operational missions. Keeping that in mind with what we're doing every day with our state partners in Paraguay and in Kenya, we are all over the world. So it's incredibly, incredibly important for us to keep you folks in uniform and here in the Massachusetts National Guard. You heard the governor mention about a $2,000 tax benefit for employers of Massachusetts National Guardsmen. That is the type of creativity we need to make sure that we keep you here in Massachusetts. Massachusetts needs you. The nation needs you now more than ever. When you look at China, which I think the technical term I can legally use now is an adversary. Anything beyond that, I would get in trouble, I guess. But when you look at the adversaries like China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and terrorist organizations, this country needs you now more than ever. So I want to thank you, but keep in mind, you're doing it for the nation, you're doing it for your family, and you're doing it for the generations that are coming behind you, and those individuals around the world that want to chase the dream and get their piece of the American dream. So take pride in that. And the one thing I would ask you to do is if you know anybody else that shares your values, shares your beliefs, and wants to be part of a team, make sure you talk to them about joining the Guard. Because I don't care where you come from, I don't care what you look like, we got a place for you on our team, and we always will. We need you. So don't think, maybe I'm not cut out to it. If you're even thinking about it, and you've cared about something bigger than yourself at any time in your life, we want you on our team. So thank you for what you're doing today. Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. I want to thank the legislative team and, of course, the executive offices for continually supporting us on anything we need. So thank you so much. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and have a great, healthy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, General Keefe. Officers receive 2 commissions when they are appointed in the National Guard. The President of the United States, in his role as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, issues the Federal Commission in the National Guard of the United States. The Governor, in her role as State Commander-in-Chief, issues the commission in the State National Guard. We will now recognize the officers receiving their state commission. Please rise and remain standing as your name is called. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Michael Andrea. Second Lieutenant William Apollon. Second Lieutenant Garrett Austin. Major Krista Hoisigton Bordier. Second Lieutenant Kenneth Braga. Second Lieutenant Jose Berga. Second Lieutenant Cullen Burke. Second Lieutenant Christopher Chavez. Second Lieutenant Aidan Cretin. Second Lieutenant Stanley Cloud. Second Lieutenant Nicholas Clifford. Second Lieutenant Charles Cook. Second Lieutenant Joseph Charleston Craig. Second Lieutenant Piper Crooks. Second Lieutenant John Lawrence Curtis, Jr. Second Lieutenant Connor Dudka. Second Lieutenant Grace Fishpaw. Second Lieutenant Rebecca Freeman. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Jay Hayden. Second Lieutenant Cyrus Hull. Second Lieutenant Sengor Kangorguni Fogagi. Second Lieutenant Michelle Kim. Second Lieutenant Hunter Laville. Second Lieutenant Joseph Levesque. Second Lieutenant Nick Lewis. Second Lieutenant Alvaro Lopez Ramirez. Second Lieutenant Richard McKenzie. First Lieutenant Hinkle Omar Miranda. Major Richard Stewart Mundy. Captain Vesker Napune. Second Lieutenant Matthew Perinick. Second Lieutenant Jason Perry. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Ashley Piccirilli. Second Lieutenant Luke Piote. Second Lieutenant Thomas Rice. Lieutenant Colonel Jason David Schroner. Second Lieutenant Alexander Sherwood. First Lieutenant Nathaniel Sides. Second Lieutenant Joseph Silva. Second Lieutenant Antonio Simonelli. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Scott Stalford. Second Lieutenant Aaron Stanton. And Second Lieutenant Josh Valenzano. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Healey will now administer the officer's oath to the newly commissioned and ascensioned officers in the Massachusetts National Guard.
I ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that I make this obligation freely, without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of this office about which I am to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Officers, please be seated. The Governor's 20 Award is awarded to the top 10 pistol and top 10 rifle marksmen at the annual Adjutant General's State Marksmanship Competition. Top scoring competitors at the state match have the opportunity to advance and compete at the regional and at the national level. The Governor's 20 Award consists of a certificate signed by the Governor and the Adjutant General, and a tab worn on the left shoulder of the recipient's uniform on which is printed the words, Governor's 20. Governor Healey, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, and General Keefe will now present the recipients with their pins, tabs, and certificates. Governor's 20, post. Sergeant Nathan Sharples. Sergeant Paul Martin. Sergeant Richard Sawyer. Staff Sergeant Raphael Reardon. Tech Sergeant Nicholas Frustacci. Master Sergeant David Newman. Staff Sergeant Kyle Mayer. Major Patrick Alamed. Sergeant Nicholas Chiramella. Sergeant Thomas Neal. Specialist Renzo Vasconcelos. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Massachusetts National Guard are proud to recognize the Governor's 20. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Massachusetts National Guard are proud to award the Massachusetts Commendation Medal to a service member for tremendous personal action in service to the public during times of need. We now ask that Staff Sergeant Justin Wilcox please come to the stage. The Massachusetts Commendation Medal with Heroism Device is awarded to Staff Sergeant Justin Wilcox for exceptional heroic action. While preparing to leave for Drill Sergeant School the morning of 26 August 2024, Staff Sergeant Wilcox observed an unresponsive individual face down at the end of the driveway. Staff Sergeant Wilcox immediately ran to the individual's aid, called 911, and performed CPR until emergency services arrived. His heroic actions impacted the outcome of this situation, resulting in the veteran's life being saved. Staff Sergeant Wilcox's heroism reflects great credit upon himself, the Recruiting and Retention Battalion, the Massachusetts Army National Guard, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Congratulations, Staff Sergeant Wilcox. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Massachusetts National Guard are proud to recognize the non-commissioned officer, soldier, and airman of the year. We now ask that Sergeant First Class Chadwick Larder please come to the stage. The Massachusetts Commendation Medal is awarded to Sergeant First Class Chadwick Larder for outstanding achievement while competing in the 2024 Massachusetts National Guard's Best Warrior Competition. Sergeant First Class Chadwick Larder distinguished himself by preparing for, competing in, and winning multiple competitions that led to him being selected as the Best Warrior and Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year for Massachusetts National Guard. Sergeant First Class Larder demonstrated an exceptional mastery of warrior tasks and soldier skills that placed him well above his peers. Sergeant First Class Chadwick Larder's performance reflects great credit upon himself, the Massachusetts National Guard, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We now ask that Sergeant Brian Fraga please come to the stage. Attention to orders. The Massachusetts Commendation is presented to Sergeant Brian Fraga for outstanding achievement while competing in the 2024 Massachusetts National Guard's Best Warrior Competition. Sergeant Brian Fraga distinguished himself by preparing for, competing in, and winning multiple competitions that led to him being selected as the Best Warrior and Soldier of the Year for the Massachusetts National Guard. Sergeant Fraga demonstrated an exceptional mastery of warrior tasks and soldier skills that placed him well above his peers. Specialist Sergeant Fraga performance reflects great credit upon himself, the Massachusetts National Guard, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Congratulations, Sergeant Fraga. We now ask that Technical Sergeant Joseph Williams please come to the stage. Attention to orders. The Massachusetts Commendation is presented to Technical Sergeant Joseph Williams for outstanding achievement while competing in the 2024 Massachusetts National Guard's Best Warrior Competition. Technical Sergeant Joseph Williams distinguished himself by preparing for, competing in, and winning multiple competitions that led to him being selected as the Best Warrior and Soldier of the Year for Massachusetts National Guard. Technical Sergeant Williams demonstrated an exceptional mastery of warrior tasks and soldier skills that placed him well above his peers. Technical Sergeant Williams' performance reflects great credit upon himself, the Massachusetts National Guard, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We now ask that Staff Sergeant Nicholas Roselli please come to the stage. Attention to orders. The Massachusetts Commendation is presented to Staff Sergeant Nicholas Roselli for outstanding achievement while competing in the 2024 Massachusetts National Guard's Best Warrior Competition. Staff Sergeant Nicholas Roselli distinguished himself by preparing for, competing in, and winning multiple competitions that led to him being selected as the Best Warrior and Soldier of the Year for the Massachusetts National Guard. Staff Sergeant Roselli demonstrated an exceptional mastery of warrior tasks and soldier skills that placed him well above his peers. Staff Sergeant Roselli's performance reflects great credit upon himself, the Massachusetts National Guard, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Congratulations, Staff Sergeant. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, today, December 13th, we recognize as the birthday of the National Guard. On this date, in 1636, the first militia regiments in North America were organized here in Massachusetts based upon an order of the Massachusetts Bay Colony's General Court. The colony's militia was organized into three permanent regiments to better defend the colony. Today, the descendants of these first regiments, the 181st Infantry, the 182nd Infantry, the 101st Field Artillery, and the 101st Engineer Battalion of the Massachusetts Army National Guard, share the distinction of being the oldest units in the U.S. military. December 13th, 1636, thus marks the beginning of the organized militia and the birth of the National Guard's oldest organized units. It is also symbolic of the founding of all the state, territory, and District of Columbia militias that collectively make up today's National Guard. Assisting the Governor and General Keefe in the ceremonial cutting of our birthday cake are our youngest and oldest currently serving National Guardsmen, Airman First Class Robert Butler and Command Sergeant Major James Campbell. Congratulations to all our honorees, and on behalf of the Governor, the Lieutenant Governor, and the Adjutant General, thank you for attending today's ceremony. Please rise for the departure of the official party and the playing of God Bless America.